Welcome back to Untold Revenge Files. Today, the story you're about to hear takes place in Cedar Brook, Colorado. My name is Elena Matthews. I'm 31 years old, a single mother to the most precious 4-year-old girl in the world, and until 3 weeks ago, I believed that blood was thicker than water. I was wrong. Let me take you back to where it all started, where I learned that the family I sacrificed everything for never considered me family at all. After my father passed away 4 years ago, my mother, Diane, fell apart. Dad had always handled the finances, and suddenly she was drowning in bills she didn't understand and grief she couldn't process. I was 27, newly divorced, and 8 months pregnant when I moved back into my childhood home. Not because I needed her. I needed to save her. What nobody in our family knew, not even my older sister Brittany, was that Dad had left the house with a mortgage still attached. Mom couldn't make the payments. She couldn't even look at the bills without crying. So I took over, quietly, completely. For 4 years, I paid that mortgage. $1,600 a month directly from my paycheck as a paralegal at a small law firm downtown. I worked overtime, I skipped vacations, I bought my daughter Lily secondhand clothes so my mother could keep her home, and I never told anyone because I didn't want to embarrass my mom. I thought that's what family did. But here's the thing about being the quiet, reliable daughter: you become invisible. Brittany, on the other hand, was always the star. 3 years older than me, blonde where I was brunette, loud where I was soft. She'd moved to Phoenix 5 years ago to find herself, which meant dating wealthy men and posting photos from expensive restaurants. Mom talked about Brittany like she'd cured cancer. Brittany's so sophisticated. Brittany has such ambition. Brittany knows how to live. And me? I was just there. The background daughter. The one who fixed things but never got credit. The one who stayed. Before I tell you exactly what my mother did next, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and where are you watching from? I'm really curious to see how far this story will travel. 3 weeks ago, Brittany called to announce she was moving back to Colorado. She'd met someone named Marcus, a visionary entrepreneur who was disrupting the wellness industry. Translation: he sold overpriced supplements online and had a lot of opinions about cryptocurrency. Mom was thrilled. Her golden child was returning. The night before Brittany arrived, my mother sat me down at the kitchen table. I remember Lily was in the living room watching cartoons, her little laugh floating through the doorway. Mom didn't make eye contact. She just folded her hands and said the words that shattered everything. "Elena, I need you to move out." I thought I'd misheard her. "What?" "Brittany and Marcus need a proper space. They're starting fresh, building a future together. They need your room." My chest went cold. My room? Mom, I've lived here for 4 years. Lily's entire life has been in this house. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem to solve. Her voice was flat, rehearsed. You're a grown woman. You should have been building your own life instead of staying here like a crutch. A crutch. That's what she called me. The person paying her mortgage. Mom, I can't just... Brittany has real potential. Marcus has connections. They could do big things, but they need stability. She paused, and what came next broke something in me. You're not going anywhere, Elena. You never have. At least let your sister have a chance. Lily toddled into the kitchen then, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Grandma, can I have juice? My mother barely glanced at her. Elena, I want you out by Sunday. That's 5 days. I've already told Brittany she can have the room. I felt like the floor was tilting. You already told her? Before even asking me? I'm not asking. I'm telling. She stood up, conversation over. And please don't make a scene. I don't need the drama. Lily tugged my hand, confused by the tension. Mommy? Why is Grandma mad? I couldn't speak. My throat had closed completely. 4 years of sacrifice. 48 mortgage payments. Nearly $77,000. And I was being discarded like old furniture to make room for a sister who'd contributed nothing and a boyfriend no one had even met. That night, after I put Lily to bed, I sat in the dark holding the folder I kept hidden in my closet. Every mortgage statement, every payment confirmation, every receipt showing Elena Matthews as the payer on Diane Matthews' home. I thought about showing her, throwing the papers on the table and demanding gratitude. But then I realized something that made my stomach drop. She wouldn't care. Even if she knew, even if she understood what I'd done, she would still choose Brittany. She would still want me gone. The mortgage payments didn't earn her love. Nothing would. I had spent 4 years trying to prove I was worth keeping, and I never would be. Sunday came faster than I expected. Brittany swept in with Marcus, who immediately started talking about converting the garage into a content studio. My mother laughed at everything he said. She helped them carry boxes. She'd bought new towels for their bathroom, my bathroom, where I'd bathed Lily since she was a newborn. I loaded our car in silence. 3 suitcases, a box of Lily's toys, the folder of mortgage papers tucked in my purse. Lily didn't understand why we were leaving. She kept asking when we'd come back to Grandma's house. My mother didn't hug her goodbye. She was too busy showing Marcus the backyard. I had no idea that one phone call from the bank would finally break my mother and change everything. The first week in the motel was the hardest. Lily didn't understand why we were in one room instead of a house. She asked about her toys, the ones I'd had to leave behind because there wasn't space in the car. She asked about Grandma. She asked why I cried in the shower when I thought she was asleep. I found us a tiny apartment on the east side of Cedarbrook, 600 square feet, a kitchen the size of a closet, and a view of the parking lot. But it was ours. I signed the lease with shaking hands, knowing it meant the end of something I'd been holding on to for years. My coworker Naomi was the first person I told everything to. We'd worked together at the law firm for 3 years, but I'd always kept my family situation private. That changed when she found me crying in the break room over a cup of cold coffee. "What happened?" she asked, sliding into the chair across from me. So I told her. All of it. The mortgage payments, the favoritism, the eviction, Lily's confusion. Everything I'd kept bottled up for 4 years came pouring out. Naomi listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked one question that rewired my brain. "Would you accept this treatment from a stranger? A boss? A friend?" "No, of course not." "Then why accept it from your mother?" I didn't have an answer. That night, I made a decision. I pulled out the mortgage folder and looked at the upcoming payment due in 12 days. For 4 years, I had never missed a payment. I had sacrificed vacations, savings, even a better apartment for Lily, all to keep my mother in a home she'd now given to someone else. So here's the question I need to ask you. Have you ever done everything right for someone who still treated you like you were nothing? Drop a comment and tell me, what made you finally stop? I wrote a letter that I never sent. It started as an angry rant, but by the time I finished, it had become something else. A goodbye. Not to my mother, but to the version of myself who needed her approval to feel whole. I stopped the automatic payment. For the first time in 4 years, I let the mortgage become her problem. The guilt hit immediately. I lay awake at night, imagining my mother losing the house. Then I remembered Lily asking why Grandma didn't hug her goodbye, and the guilt transformed into something harder. Something protective. Brittany called 3 days later, furious. "Mom says you stole some important documents from the house. She wants them back." "I didn't steal anything." My voice was steady. "What documents?" "She didn't say. Just that you took things that belonged to her." Brittany's tone dripped with superiority. "You know, Elena, it's really pathetic how you're handling this. You could be happy for me, but instead you're being petty and difficult." "Happy for you about what exactly? Moving into the room where my daughter slept? Having Mom cater to your boyfriend while ignoring her own grandchild? See? This is exactly what I mean. You always make everything about you." She hung up. I blocked her number. Then I blocked my mother's. The silence that followed felt like stepping off a cliff, but instead of falling, I discovered I could fly. The weeks blurred into months. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion to senior paralegal. The raise meant I could move us into a slightly bigger apartment with a tiny balcony where Lily could draw with sidewalk chalk. I enrolled her in preschool, and every day when I picked her up, her little face lit up like I was her whole world. Because I was, and she was mine. That was enough. Naomi introduced me to her brother James at a firm barbecue. He was a quiet, thoughtful man, a high school history teacher who actually listened when people talked. We started with coffee, then dinner, then long walks where Lily would run ahead and we'd pretend to race her. "She's amazing," he said one evening, watching Lily collect dandelions. "She's everything," I replied. He looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years. Respect, genuine affection, no conditions attached. The next morning, I woke up feeling something unfamiliar. Lightness. For the first time, I didn't spend my first waking moments worrying about my mother's house or my sister's opinion or whether I was doing enough. I was done being the family safety net. It was time to be Lily's mother and finally, my own person. 7 months passed like water flowing downhill, slowly at first, then all at once. My promotion came with new responsibilities and a team of 3 people who actually valued my input. For the first time in my career, my ideas mattered. I wasn't the invisible workhorse anymore. I was a leader. Lily thrived in preschool. Her teacher said she was emotionally intelligent beyond her years, which made me cry in the parking lot. My daughter, who'd watched her grandmother dismiss her, was learning to be kind and resilient. She'd broken the cycle I'd been stuck in. James and I moved slowly, but steadily. He never pushed. He never demanded. He just showed up, to Lily's dance recitals, to my terrible cooking experiments, to the nights when I couldn't explain why I was sad but needed someone to sit with me anyway. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Elena, it's Aunt Patricia, my father's sister." We hadn't spoken since his funeral, when my mother had made it clear that Dad's side of the family wasn't welcome at gatherings anymore. "Aunt Pat, is everything okay?" There was a long pause. "Honey, I don't know how to say this, but I thought you should hear it from someone who cares about you." My stomach dropped. "Hear what?" "Your mother's house is in foreclosure. The bank filed papers last month." I sat down slowly. The room felt very still. "She called me looking for money," Aunt Patricia continued. "She was hysterical. Said she had no idea the mortgage hadn't been paid, that she'd been blindsided. I told her I couldn't help, but then she said something that made me think of you." "What did she say?" "She said Elena was supposed to handle this. Like it was your job, like you owed her something." Patricia's voice hardened. I knew right then something was wrong, so I made some calls. A friend who works at the bank pulled some records. "Elena, you paid that mortgage for 4 years. You kept that woman in her home, and she doesn't even know it." Tears I didn't expect slid down my cheeks. Not sadness. Release. Finally, someone else knew. Someone believed me. "She knows now," Patricia said softly. "The bank sent her all the payment records. She knows exactly who was keeping that house afloat." I let that sink in. After 7 months of silence, my mother finally understood what she'd thrown away. "What did she do?" I asked. "From what I heard, she screamed at Brittany for an hour, then locked herself in her room. Brittany's boyfriend left 2 weeks ago. Turns out his business was a scam and he was running from creditors. Now it's just Brittany and your mother in a house they can't afford, fighting over who's to blame. So let me ask you this. When people who hurt you finally face consequences, is it wrong to feel relieved? Or is that just proof that some part of you still hoped for justice?" 3 weeks later, a letter arrived at my apartment. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting. I didn't open it for 2 days. It sat on my kitchen counter like an unexploded bomb while I went to work, tucked Lily into bed, and had dinner with James. Finally, one night after Lily was asleep, I slid my finger under the seal. It was short. "Elena, I didn't know. I didn't know you were paying. I thought the house was taken care of by your father's life insurance. I never asked because I couldn't face the finances after he died. I see now that my willful ignorance cost me everything. Brittany is no help. Marcus is gone. The bank gives us 60 days. I'm not asking for money. I know I don't deserve it. I'm asking for a chance to explain." Please call me. Mom. I read it 3 times. Each time I noticed what was missing. No apology for kicking me out. No acknowledgement of how she treated Lily. No admission that she chose Brittany over me again and again and again. Just an explanation for her ignorance and a request for my time. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Knowing she was finally facing the consequences of her choices should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like equilibrium, like gravity working as intended. I wondered if I would ever respond, or if some doors were meant to stay closed. 14 months after I left my mother's house, I walked down a small aisle in a garden venue overlooking the mountains, James waiting at the end with tears in his eyes. Lily was our flower girl. She scattered petals with the seriousness of a surgeon, making sure each one landed perfectly. Our guests laughed, and I laughed with them, these 50 people who had become my real family. Naomi, co-workers, James's parents, who'd welcomed Lily as their granddaughter from day one. Aunt Patricia sitting in the front row where my mother should have been. My mother wasn't there. Neither was Brittany. I'd thought about inviting them. James never pressured me either way, but I could tell he was curious about my decision. One night, a month before the wedding, he finally asked, "Do you want them there?" I thought about it honestly. Not what I should want, not what would look forgiving or mature. What I actually wanted. "No," I said. "I want our wedding to be filled with people who've earned a place in our lives." "They haven't." He nodded. "Then that's the right answer." The wedding was perfect. Not because nothing went wrong, but because everything that mattered went right. Lily danced on James's feet during our first song. Aunt Patricia gave a toast that made everyone cry. The caterer ran out of champagne, so we switched to sparkling cider and no one complained. That night, as James and I sat on the patio of our little honeymoon cabin, I told him about the drawer where I kept my mother's letter. "I never responded," I admitted. "Part of me feels guilty. Part of me feels free. I'm not sure which feeling is right." James took my hand. "Maybe they're both right. Maybe guilt is just what happens when you choose yourself after years of not being allowed to." My mother had tried calling twice in the months before the wedding. I didn't answer. She sent a card that I opened but didn't read past the first line. "I know I have no right to ask, but—" She was correct. She didn't. The house eventually went into foreclosure. Brittany moved into a small rental with a roommate. My mother went to live with a cousin in Nebraska, someone I'd never met who took her in out of obligation. I heard all this through Aunt Patricia, who kept me updated without expecting me to act on any of it. And I didn't. I didn't rescue my mother. I didn't reach out to Brittany. I didn't even feel the need to gloat. I just lived. 3 months after the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. Lily was going to be a big sister. When I told her, she put her hand on my stomach and whispered, "I'll teach them everything, Mommy." Standing in the nursery, we were painting pale yellow. I finally understood something I'd been fighting for years. My mother still has a family, a sister, cousins, and a daughter who stayed. I didn't take everything from her. I just stopped letting her take everything from me. So after everything you've heard, if you were standing where I am now, with a mother who finally realized what she lost and wants back in, would you open that door and call it forgiveness? Or would you protect the life you built and call it self-respect? For me, the answer came easily once I stopped feeling guilty about it. Love is an action, not just a bloodline. The people at my wedding, the man tucking Lily in at night, the baby growing inside me. They are my family because they chose me, and I chose them. My mother never chose me. She only realized my value when I was gone, and that realization came too late. Maybe someday, years from now, I'll write her back. Maybe I'll introduce my children to their grandmother and let them decide for themselves who she is. Or maybe I won't. The beautiful thing about choosing yourself is that you get to keep choosing every day for the rest of your life. What I know for sure is this. I spent 4 years paying a mortgage in secret, hoping love would eventually come with the receipt. It never did. The moment I stopped paying, I finally became rich in all the ways that matter. If you're still watching, I hope you understand the message I'm trying to share. You cannot make someone value you by giving more than you have. Some people will take and take and take until you're empty. then complain that you have nothing left to offer. The brave thing isn't staying. The brave thing is walking away and trusting that you're worth the life you build without them. Thank you for staying until the end. Drop a comment telling me what you think. Was I right to keep that door closed, or would you have done it differently? And that, my friends, is the story of how Elena's mother kicked her out in front of her 4-year-old daughter, only to discover that the invisible daughter was the one keeping a roof over her head all along. Some people don't realize what they have until the mortgage papers tell the truth. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever sacrificed everything for someone who didn't even notice? What was the moment you finally said, enough? And here's a quick question for the comments. If your family came crawling back after treating you like nothing, would you open that door? Type door open if you'd give them another chance, or door closed if you'd protect your peace. I'll be reading every single response. If this story hit close to home, if it made you feel seen, validated, or reminded you that you deserve better, smash that like button and let the algorithm know this message needs to spread. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. We post new videos every week, and trust me, the next one? Even more intense. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know whose life you might change. Until next time, remember, family isn't just blood. Family is whoever shows up when it matters. This has been Untold Revenge Files. Stay strong, stay powerful, and never let anyone make you feel invisible again. See you in the next one.